Five, four, three, two, one.
I'm from a place where the girls are always looking pretty. You might have heard of us, we call it Shy City. We build champions here who define gritty. We don't do excuses, we don't do pity. Rose is coming back stronger, that's a guarantee. Cutler's coming back too, he's beastly. Throwing it to Marshall, the title's ours easily. Black Hawks are winning titles, trophy looking massive. Don't forget about the Cubs, Sox, Crosstown Classic. With so much greatness, we gotta show bravado. You got your boys Ambro and Mike Mercado.
Welcome, boys and girls. This is the Chicago Beat on WICB Chicago. I am your moderator on this crazy train. I am Mike Mercado. And if you want to follow the show, we're everywhere in the universe. If you want to follow us on Twitter, we're at mmercado2333. You can follow us on Facebook /MikeMercado2333. Or if you want to listen and watch the show, you can find us at YouTube /MikeMercado2333. And of course, the talk of the day. Last night, LeBron James has won an NBA championship. I had to wake up and double check the internet. I had to put on ESPN. I had to check my text messages. I had to check my Twitter. I had to check Facebook to make sure that this wasn't just a nightmare. The Miami Heat are NBA champions after blowing out the Oklahoma City Thunder in Game 5 in Miami. And there's a lot of storylines towards this. I mean, it was a slow day in the city of Chicago. Let's get that out of the way. It's going to be a focus heavy on the NBA Finals. Cubs and White Sox both weren't playing. Both teams are out of first place. So we're going to give credit where it's due, and that's the NBA Finals. And the fact that, yeah, the Miami Heat have won. And there's a lot of storylines that go into it. Where does this put LeBron James in history? Where does it put his playoff run in history? Where does that leave OKC for the future? Where does that put Miami for the future? And more importantly than anything, where does that put the Bulls for the future? The NBA landscape has completely changed after the triple-double from LeBron James and his first NBA championship being named NBA Finals MVP. Now, say what you want about LeBron James. A lot of it is justified. The decision, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7. I'm taking my talent to South Beach. We're the bad guys. Everything that he said, everything that he did leading up to the finals, I don't want to say it's vindicated, but guys, it's vindicated. He's a champion. And it wasn't him coattailing from Dwayne Wade. If anything, Dwayne Wade was coattailing LeBron James in this finals. I don't like what Miami did to make this team together. And I'm not upset as a Bulls fan because I think they slated the Bulls. Not at all. Because these guys had this planned out since the Olympics. So let's get that out of the way. What bothers me is the fact that it was decided so many years ago while these guys were playing for different teams, or at least Chris Bosh and LeBron James were. But after saying all that, it doesn't matter because it paid off for them. They're NBA champions. And they made me look dumb. Well, first of all, they made me look right. So Secret Producer Man, play the audio and give me my dap. I think Miami is going to pull it out tonight. It's had that feeling all series long. After Game 2, and it goes back to what I've been saying, the NBA has a way of working itself out. Thank you very much. You're crude. You're mean to me. I don't like you. The only reason I have you on the show is because I don't know how to do a lot of this technical stuff. Okay? But they also made me look bad because I said Derrick Rose and his Chicago Bulls would win an NBA title before the Big Three did in Miami.
Sometimes we suck.
Really? Really, Secret Producer Man? If it isn't bad enough that the Miami Heat, you're going to be making fun of me now? And what's amazing about everything that has happened, that has at least occurred in this finals, is the theory that I've been saying since day one of the playoffs. In order for a team to win an NBA final, they have to experience the devastation of a loss. LeBron James has gone through all of that. Derrick Rose and Kevin Durant have gone through their own versions of that. Durant has lost in the finals. And not only has lost in the finals, you could look at his box score and say he did not... It's hard for me to say he did not do enough for a guy who scored over 25 points in the finals. He did not do enough, though. He didn't. Look at LeBron James. He had a triple-double. May have not blown out the scoreboard in this game, but he affected the game in so many ways. And as much as I like Kevin Durant, and I do, he is a bad dude. It takes more than just shooting the ball. And yeah, and this goes for Russell Westbrook, too. And I don't want to get started on James Harden. You talk about somebody who made me look bad, it's James Harden. I was all over this kid saying, bring him to the Bulls. That's the guy I want. That's the dream player. Did not show up. And now that the only question for OKC going on in the future is who they're going to keep between Serge Ibaka and James Harden, you have to keep Serge Ibaka. You have Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook who are signed for a long time. That's going to eventually work its way out, but you talk about someone whose stock just completely dropped after it was skyrocketed in the San Antonio series. And on Russell Westbrook, 4 for 20 shooting, but that's just not going to do it. But this is a lesson for kids in Oklahoma City. I mean, I think as the youth of this nation and in the sports world, and we have the luxury of being able to have time to fix our mistakes. And you're going to see that with OKC. You can see that with a lot of the young teams in the league. Like they said at the end of the broadcast, the league's in good hands because there's a lot of good young talent in this league. But you know what? Ask LeBron James and Dwayne Wade. Ask Dirk. Ask Kobe. You got to go through some hardship before you can win the NBA Finals. You're on WICB in the Chicago Beat.
You're listening to WICB with Mike Mercado.
A city that has diehards who know when their teams are bad and know when their teams are good. And yet every single day they go to the stadium.
And that's the Beat.
Hope everybody's having a beautiful afternoon. The weekend is right around the corner, so guys, get ready. You're almost done with work and get this weekend started. Although it's going to be a little bit of a slow sports weekend, the finals delivered. And speaking of delivering, how about Mike Miller? Listen, I have never been so critical about a other guy than I have on Mike Miller. The Heat won that game, not only because of LeBron James, but because of those backbreakers Mike Miller was hitting. I never thought, I could not even imagine if you would have told me it would have been a 20-point blowout. I couldn't imagine that. After seeing the way this series has worked out over the last, week and a half, I couldn't imagine seeing one of these teams blow the other one out of the court. And that's what happened. And it wasn't a normal blowout. Obviously, it's not because this is the NBA Finals. Oklahoma City was in the game every single moment. They didn't, at not one point did you sit there and say, okay, this team has thrown in the towel, they're ready for next year. No, they don't know any better. They were out there playing and trying to win the game, but sometimes the universe has the way of working itself out, and it was LeBron's turn to win an NBA championship. That's just what happens. Some guys don't get that. Some guys don't ever win an NBA championship. And now that LeBron has won his NBA title, that means the NBA landscape has completely changed. Because now the storyline goes from, is LeBron James in the category of the greatest of all time? Is he a top 10er? I think he is. And to say a championship does not mean anything is ridiculous. A lot of LeBron backers back in, 2 days ago would have said, if he never wins a title, he still goes down as one of the greatest players of all time. Yes, but does he get mentioned as it? That's the question, because Charles Barkley, Patrick Ewing, Reggie Miller, Karl Malone, John Stockton, great players. Gary Payton, great players. Never won an NBA championship. Do you ever consider them top 10 players? No. Go ahead and name the top 10 players. They all have not just a ring, multiple rings. The sports world is as objective as it gets. A lot of opinions are said. People disagree with one another. I know people listening to me right now are only listening to me because they disagree with what I say and they want to make a note. That's fine. And if you want to do that, you can follow us at Twitter at mmercado2333. Comment us on Facebook /MikeMercado2333.com. That's how the sports world works. But at the end of the day, you're judged by championships. And there's no if, and, or buts about it. You're judged by championships and what you did in those moments. If Dirk Nowitzki does not win that championship 2 years ago, do you look at him the same way? No, right? How about in this generation? Think about the guys who don't have an NBA title. And we're going to get to that next, here on WICB and the Chicago Beat.
You're listening to WICB with Mike Mercado.
A city that has diehards who know when their teams are bad and know when their teams are good. And yet every single day they go to the stadium.
And that's the Beat.
The NBA Finals are over. A new champion was crowned in the Miami Heat. LeBron James gets his monkey off his back. Many would say the gorilla off of his back. And now that means the pressure has turned. Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, LeBron James, Eric Spoelstra, Pat Riley, they all won the championship with the Big Three. You could say it was a success. Now, maybe 10 years from now, if that team stays together for 5, 6, 7 years and they don't win another one, we could talk. But at the end of the day, they got theirs. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But now it becomes about who's next. Who has the pressure? Who's the best in the league? And you're going to see this on ESPN. You're going to see this on Dan Patrick, NBC, Colin Cowherd, everywhere. You're going to see this. This is going to be the question. This to me almost comes as plain and simple as anything else. When you think about champions, you think about who's the elite players. Who are the ones that change a game? Who are the ones 10, 15, 20 years after they're gone you tell your kids about? Or you remember after seeing flashbacks on YouTube, or if YouTube is around at that point, who are the guys that stick to that era and that don't have a championship? You look at the 90s and the 80s, the golden era. In the golden era of the 80s, it seemed like the guys who were supposed to win and won it. Again, I'm not from that era, so it's hard for me to tell you who should have won it. I'm from the 90s and this millennium. I know who should have won and who shouldn't have. The first person that comes to my list now is Kevin Durant. He has to. I mean, we've seen he's the former scoring champion. We've seen him take his team to the Western Conference and now the NBA Finals. He's progressed throughout into the playoffs every year in his league. We've seen him progress. We see that he has the talent around him, and they're young. So he has the most pressure now. And when I define pressure, I'll be as specific as it gets. It becomes hype, the type of player you are, where you play at, and where the media puts you. All that, and yet OKC is not a major market. Look at that stadium, though. To tell me there's no pressure on him to win a title, Kevin Durant's the #1 player who needs it. He needs to win an NBA championship. Number 2 to me, and this one comes to heart, Derrick Rose. Because Derrick Rose, if he wins it, he would become the first point guard of his style to win an NBA title. A scoring point guard. An athletic point guard. He's the former MVP in the 3rd largest market and the stadium that Jordan built. He has pressure to win an NBA title. Good kid, humble, people are rooting for him. But he also is from the town he plays in. So that puts even more pressure on him. He doesn't have the talent around him that some of these other players do. So then not only he has the pressure of trying to win a championship, he has the pressure of trying to win one by himself. And think about how hard it was for LeBron James to do that. In his body frame, in his position, with his skill. Derrick Rose is a tinier version of that. Now, it might play out differently because the Bulls are a great ran organization. But you talk about pressure, Derrick Rose has the 2nd most in the league. Now, 3rd to me is Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard has put himself in that position now to have all that pressure. He's been to the finals. He puts himself in that pedestal by demanding trades. And by people feeding into that ego, you have put him into that category. So he has that pressure now. And by him selecting and choosing where he wants to go and doesn't want to go. And then not only that, choosing teams lower than others when it comes to championship potential. He has that pressure now. Because you know what? You want to go to Brooklyn and be the man and go to New York City? That's your pressure. You want to go to Los Angeles? That's pressure on you. You want to come to Chicago? That's pressure on you. 4th to me, Chris Paul. Chris Paul is always put in, especially in the national media, as the best point guard in the league. I don't see it. I think he's a great point guard. Do I think people put him in that category because of his clique and because of who he associates with in the league with Kobe's and the Wades and guys like that? Maybe. He's a great player. I'm not going to argue with that. But I've also seen him in big moments, and I don't know if he can do it by himself. But that's the pressure that's put on him. And it all came from that Los Angeles Lakers trade that did not happen. The media put this on him. But at the same time, the way he acts on the court, the way he carries himself, he walks like a champion that doesn't have a ring. He's considered the best point guard in the league in a point guard-driven league with the likes of Derrick Rose, Rajon Rondos, and Russell Westbrooks. Correct me if I'm wrong, each one of those guys has either gone to the finals or gone to the conference finals in their own right, leading their team. But they pick him to be it. So you talk about pressure, that's him. Now this is the one that has gotten the most attention. At 5 for me is Carmelo Anthony. Some want to say he's not on that elite level. I totally disagree with that. Point in hand, he's playing in New York City with all the trade demands from Denver and everybody trying to get him. Part of the draft class with LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, arguably one of the better draft classes in NBA history. We've seen him with buzzer beaters. We've seen him thrown to us at All-Star games, thrown to us at the Olympics, commercials, but nothing to show for it. Nothing. There's nothing to show for it. And he's playing in Madison Square Garden. Yes, you talk about pressure, that's it right there. And not just that, if they get rid of Amari Stoudemire after he's brought there to change the team around him and still not be able to succeed and get out of the first round in any team you've been with, that's enough pressure right there. And that was Chicago's Friday Fab 5 on the Chicago Beats. So it's time to wrap a bow on the NBA season and what it is, what it was, and what will happen. For all you Bulls fans out there, keep your heads up. The Miami Heat did win the NBA title. That's fine. They were going to at some point or another. Just like at some point or another, the Thunder will win one. And just like some points or another, the Bulls will win one. But this is now more than ever where you have to realize what's important as a Bulls fan. That's getting your team healthy, getting the right pieces in matter, and winning in the playoffs. I don't care if you're the 1st seed or the 8th seed. I don't care how you win, what you win with, or how you do it. We have seen that everything is determined by championships. And in the city that was blessed to have the greatest, not just basketball player, but athlete of all time, bring 6 championships to the city, that is what we judge and what legacies are built. The Heat have won theirs. Whether they're the bad guys, the good guys. Whether they have the fake fans or the real fans. Whether they have the coronations, whether they're rock stars, doesn't matter. 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years from now, they will always have their ring of that team. The Thunder and the Bulls need that. And there's no other team in this league that is as much pressure on the lights and their own success than those two teams. You always have the Lakers. You always have the Celtics. And then there'll always be those random teams that kind of come around. The good organizations like San Antonio who stick around. Dallas. But at the end of the day, there's only a select few of players who are destined for the opportunity to cement themselves in NBA history. And 3 of them did it yesterday. Our hometown hero in Derrick Rose has a long road of recovery. He needs to have faith, as well as we do, in the management of the Chicago Bulls, that they will put a team around him and in that stadium for their fans, for this nation, and for this league to be ready to one day decrown the Miami Heat and beat the Oklahoma City Thunder in the NBA Finals. For a crazy season as it was, this was one of the better seasons for the NBA. 66 games, no more attention was ever given to them. Highest rating finals of all time as of right now. From what I've seen. Is this right, secret producer man? Just goes to show you. Disappointing end for the Chicago Bulls, but for the league, there's more questions that are asked than were just answered. Except for one. The ringless king has finally won his NBA title. As bad and as much as it hurts me to say.
Fade away. Let me step back and kiss myself. MVP time. Windy City Assassin does it again.
Live from WICB Radio.
Inside the 30. Hester's going to take it all the way for a touchdown. And no flag, 92 yards.
This is
It's a goal. The Stanley Cup to the Chicago Blackhawks.
Chicago's Beat.
What's on tap for this weekend, guys? UFC 147, Rich Franklin versus Wanderlei Silva Part 2. I don't know if I want to be paying, what is it? $40-something, $50-something for a pay-per-view like that. It was supposed to be Vitor Belfort versus Wanderlei Silva, but Belfort, had to get out of due to injury. In this one, I'm going to go Rich Franklin again. Although, the UFC has a weird way of working itself out as well. This is a fight nobody really wanted, or nobody really called for. So you know what? I'll take that back. Wanderlei Silva's going to win this one. Just because nobody really expects him to. Rich Franklin, as far as a fighter as he is, he gets caught. And that's what Silva's game is based off, catching people. So, UFC 147, yeah. Wanderlei Silva, 2-round knockout. And for all the Chicago fans, I didn't forget you guys, okay? The Cubs and White Sox are back in action. The Cubs have a series against the Arizona Diamondbacks starting tonight at 8:40. Should be interesting. Arizona, decent team, but they're not going to catch the Dodgers. And for the White Sox, they're bringing in the Cubs division rival, the Milwaukee Brewers. So that's going to be an interesting series. The White Sox need to start winning some games, guys. They need to. Because this division is not just going to lay down for them anymore. We're seeing that. The summertime's coming around. The bats are waking up a little bit. Pitching has been stellar all season in the MLB. So it should definitely be an interesting weekend, at least for the White Sox. And of course for the Cubs, you still have everything that's leading up to the trade deadline. So again, this is the time where you're starting to showcase your talents for suitors out there. And a quick look into the division. Thanks to Secret Producer Man for showing this on my screen. The Cleveland Indians are still a half game over the Chicago White Sox and 2.5 over Detroit. So everything kind of stood toe together. I'm looking here and I see a lot of winning streaks for this division. A lot of them. And same thing for the American League East. God, that division is so tough. Thank you so much for listening, guys. I hope you enjoy your weekend. I hope you enjoy the show. Don't forget you can follow us on everywhere in the universe. If you're on Twitter, we're at mmercado2333, Facebook/MikeMercado2333.com, or if you want to re-listen to the show, we're at YouTube/MikeMercado2333. Please take care of yourselves. Enjoy this weekend. Enjoy the games. And I will see you next week here on WICB and the Chicago Beat.